10 Amazing Facts About Space Exploration. It's now over 50 years since the Soviet Union first put a man, Yuri Gagarin, into space, and the 50-year anniversary of Neil Armstrong's walk on the moon in 1969 is approaching. Over the last 5 decades, there have been huge advances in the field of space travel, with probes being landed on moving comets, talk of space tourists, and even plans for a mission to Mars. And although the fascination of many people with the subject has waxed and waned through the years, it remains a major part of the public consciousness, since many still wonder about space experiences. Here are 10 out-of-this-world facts about space exploration, including the destruction of a few overblown myths. Ever heard the story of how NASA spent millions trying to create a pen that would work in zero gravity, while the Russians simply used a pencil? In fact, pencils are a hazard in space. They are flammable, and if the graphite tip breaks, it could pose a risk to equipment. But the good news is, the astronauts do have a pretty good range of condiments to take with them, so if the food's too bland they can just slather it in Tabasco or mustard. The International Space Station, launched in 1998, was a successful joint venture by the Americans and Russians. One very famous astronaut, Canadian Chris Hadfield, became the first person to record a song in space. Right from the moment Apollo 11 took off, there have been conspiracy theories that the moon landings were faked, most of which have been comprehensively debunked, yet many still believe them. In fact, Kubrick did work with both equipment and staff who were involved in the first moon landing, but the idea that he helped fake the whole thing is probably going slightly too far. Visitors to the NASA Space Center in Florida can have a special presentation given by an actual American astronaut while they eat, when they'll learn all about the rigorous demands of training, and the experience of flying into space. If you know someone who's visiting Florida soon, especially with an interest in space travel, a ticket for this kind of event would make for an amazing gift. Maybe it was the sight of Bruce Willis and his team of oilmen drilling to the center of a gigantic asteroid to save the world that gave them the idea. Many companies, not to mention governments, are now taken with the idea of mining these immense chunks of rock for their minerals. The potential for vast profits is, well, vast, but the trick is landing equipment and, presumably, people to operate it, on an asteroid that's moving at thousands of miles per hour. Could be a few years yet before we have space minerals in our computers. Various astronauts who have been on missions there claim that the moon smells of wet ashes, or spent gunpowder. And astronauts have also reported that space itself smells slightly of burned steak. One American astronaut, John Young, who was on Apollo 16, is even said to have eaten a bit of the moon, and said it wasn't bad. The early astronauts were unable to get life insurance, perhaps understandably, for such a risky venture. Experience travels in another way.